Welcome on to the final lesson of Module 3 of the Blog Builder, and I'm going to chat a little bit about social media in this lesson. As always, huge welcome. I'm Brad Brown, and if you have any comments or questions, please pop them in the question bar next to this video. So what have we learned so far in Module 3? Showed you how to put your analytics code onto your website. In the last video, we spoke about search engine optimization, or SEO, and today I'm going to be talking about social media. And by social media, there's two aspects to it. Obviously, the first one is something called incoming, so making it easy for people who access your content to share it on various social media platforms, and we can use plugins in order to put those buttons, those nice social media buttons that you see on various websites. And then the second is outgoing. So making sure that your posts that you create and pages that you create are optimized so that they show up and they look good on social media. Because the last thing you want is somebody sharing your content, taking the effort to share it, and then it looks terrible in their timeline. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So the first thing we're going to look at is the outgoing, so allowing people to share it or incoming rather. So allowing people to share it, and I mentioned the plugins. So if we go to the plugins, I'm just going to go to install plugins, because in the plugins section, I told you make sure that the plugins you use are being used. If you've installed something that you're not using, make sure you delete it. And as you can see, I've got the Twitter feed one that we put in when we decided we were going to put the Twitter feed into the sidebar. We activated it, and we didn't end up using it because we used the widget from Twitter. So I'm going to deactivate it, and then I'm going to delete it so that it is not there. So that's quite weird. There we go. It's deactivated, and now I'm going to delete it so that it is gone. I'm happy that we're deleting it. There we go. Twitter feed successfully deleted. So we've got Yoast. Those are the four that we've got. So basically what we want to do now is put another plugin onto our site. So click Add New. And while we're just getting to that page, let me just show you something on the Kona Edge that I'm going to do. This is a plugin that I really like. I've used it on various sites, and it works really, really well, and it looks good. So let me go to these posts and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if I go and click on that and go to the actual individual post, I've disabled these on the pages so that it doesn't show up, but on the posts it does. So you'll see on the left-hand side when this loads, there's a floating bar over there on the left, and if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, there it is again. So there's another one. So I like this. It looks good, and because it's there always, if somebody likes it, they can click on any one of those to start with. So that plugin is called Cresta Social, I think. Let's check if something pops up. Cresta Social Share Counter, that's the one. So it's got 44 5-star reviews, 10,000 active. It's really good. So I'm just going to click install now, and it gives you can style the buttons different ways. You can it's just really, really good. So I like it. I use it on 99% of my websites, and it works pretty well. So I'm going to activate it as well. And while it's activating, you'll see that it'll put once it's active, it'll put a bar there on the left. There we go. It's CSS free. So if you click on it, you can configure it and decide what you want to do. So you can choose the buttons you want. So I'm going to go Twitter, and I'm going to put my username. You don't have to do it. Basically what happens is when somebody shares it, it puts yours in. So I'm going to go Google+, LinkedIn, Pinterest. So that's the free version. These are paid versions. So if you want those buttons, StumbleUpon, Buffer, Reddit, that sort of thing, you can then pay for it. And then you can choose your button styles, which is great. So it puts counters on as well on some of them. So I'm going to choose, for this one, I'm going to choose that. I like that one, the one that's default. Enable shadow on the buttons. You can choose enable animation, social counter. So I'm going to put the social counter box on. That tells you how many shares, and there's an upside and a downside to that. So if you don't have many shares and it says 0, it doesn't provide too much social proof. But if you've got posts that are getting lots of shares and people like it, it's just social proof again. So there we go. So you can set this thing up as exactly how you want it. So you can, it doesn't do Twitter accounts, but you can set up through their API, you can get Twitter accounts. So that's fine. And there we go. you can say show single share count if more than 0. So if you've only got 0, it won't show anything. So there you go. Floating buttons, this is where you can put it. So you can decide where you want it. You can have the floating buttons on the left or the right. I'm going to do it on the left. Distance from the top, so that is where do you want it. So if you put it 10%, it'll be closer to the top. If you put it 50%, it'll be closer to the bottom. So I'm going to leave it as default on all of that, if that's good. Disable floating buttons on mobile. I don't want to. I like the floating buttons on mobile because, yeah, again, people share it on mobile and it's brilliant. Enable button to show hide floating buttons. Nope, not going to do that. Post position, you can choose. Do you want it on post and pages, before or after? So I like after. You can do it on both if you want, and then you can have buttons position in content, so you can have it left, right, center. I'm going to make it center, and you can then choose here on what pages and posts you want. I don't particularly like it on the pages because that'll go onto your contact page and on your home page, so I tend to only do posts. And there we go save changes. So if I now go back to my posts, so this is the post that we created in the last one that we went through on the SEO stuff. If I now refresh it, if it is working, it should put it on, which is not, which is quite weird. So let me check if there was something else that I should have done. Settings saved. There we go. So yeah, that's quite weird. I'm not sure why it is showing. So let me go to posts. Let me edit this. So I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go don't reload. I'm going to update it because I think it's now giving me the option. So we've set that up, and let me refresh that again. You know why it is? It's because it's not actually on that. So let's go to the actual post itself. It wasn't on the page. So that's the post. And there's the shares now. So that was why it was within a page. It wasn't the actual post itself. So there's your social shares. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, it should put the buttons there as well. And it's put it in the center. So where it asked me if I wanted left, right, and that sort of thing. So there we go. That's the social shares. I really like that. And it's from a positioning point of view, it is about in the right place. You could possibly go slightly down because when it's all the way up, the Facebook one is just on the image. But I'm not too phase. So let me actually change it. So if we go and let's make it 30% distance from the top. So let's go 35 actually, 35%, and then I'm going to save it and then refresh, and you'll see exactly what that'll do. So it's going to drop this whole bar down. There you go. So it's dropped it down exactly how we wanted it, 35%. That's perfect. So that's from enabling people to share this content. If somebody then clicks it, it'll open up in Facebook, but you'll see it won't be that pretty. So it's pulling in the info. It's actually not too bad. This theme is actually quite nice. It's taken the picture, it's taken the header, and it's taken the metadata that we put in the SEO, and it's published it straight in. So that's good news on this one, and that's what you want, is you want it to look good and enable people to share it. Let's talk about the sharing on Facebook and that sort of thing. So if you've done the SEO, generally it will pull it in well, but what you can do is there's actually a place for you to put the sort of text that you want to show up. So if you click on the social button, you'll see Facebook title, Facebook description, and Facebook image. So you can actually change the title, you can change the description, and put a different image in specifically for Facebook. So I'm not going to do it in this case, but you can. So that's what I would suggest. We do it on all our other posts where we actually... so I'm going to put this in just to show you. So this is a test, and then I'm going to put a different image in. From that one. So I'm going to put that image, and it says upload image, we've done it, and then I'm just going to save it, and I'm going to show you exactly what that does. It's quite interesting. So Facebook has something that it's called caching. So as soon as Facebook's pulled the info in, it stores that info in its memory, so it doesn't keep coming back to your website to find that info when you share it. And the downside is when we've changed that content now, if I share it to Facebook, so if I refresh it, even though we've changed it, I'm going to go leave. I don't want to share that to Facebook. even though we've changed it now, if I click Facebook again, it's going to open it up and it's exactly the same post, okay? So there is a website, if you search Facebook debugger, it is that there. So it's object debugger for Facebook. I use it pretty much all the time, so I'm going to put that URL for that post into the debugger, and it'll say show existing scrape information. So if I click on that, it shows me exactly what it is that's being shared right now, that's stored in Facebook's memory. If I now go fetch new scrape information, this thing, it's quite funny how it works. Sometimes you've got to do it a few times in order for it to pull that info right. So if we go back, so it's changed, it's picked up some of it, but not all of it. So I'm just going to keep going fetch new scrape info, and you'll see it'll eventually pick it up. There we go. So the headline's changed. The hurt box that was, and this is a test, now it just needs to pull the image in. So if I do it again, it's pulling the image there, which is quite funny. So it's just still in its memory, and you almost need to give it a couple of kicks and it sorts it out. So it's now changing the image. You'll see it will pop in there any minute, and it will have changed once it loads. There we go. So that's how you sort of clear Facebook's cache, so to speak, if you want to change that info. So yeah, that's the sharing on Facebook from an outgoing perspective. So you want to make it look as pretty as possible for your users to share your content on the various social media platforms. If you click on Twitter, basically what it's going to do, it'll do exactly the same thing, except it takes the post title, and then because I put my username in, it says via @BigBradBrown, which is pretty cool. So you'll then get tagged on Facebook, and it does it for pretty much all the rest. So it pulls that info in and does what it's supposed to do. So that's just on the social media side. Really make it as easy as possible for your users to share your content.